Vakratunda Mahakaya Suryakoti Samaprabha Nirvignam Kuru Me Deva Sarvakaryeshu Sarvada Om Ganganapataye Namaha Om Ganganapataye Namaha Om Ganganapataye Namaha Om Saishvaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat Om Saishvaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat Om Saishvaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrurupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrurupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Ya Devi Sarva Bhuteshu Matrurupena Samstita Namastasyai 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 Namo Namaha Namaste. Welcome to Kaivalya Yoga Gurukulam, KYG as we all know it. Thank you all for joining this divine satsang, which we humbly resume after quite a while now. Maya and I, as always, are delighted to have you all in this virtual space. Even though we cannot see you, we feel your presence, and our hearts open out in love. And in this togetherness, let us explore and continue to learn the divine mysteries of the Sri Chakra through the Devi Khadgamala Stotram or Sloka. Khadgamala, as we all know it, is armor. It's a garland of armor. It's a string of names, divine names, energies that provide us an armor, protection. It is very strange. It was unforeseen that we would have a gap this long. But it is not at all in any way, in wildest manner, less fortunate or anything like that. It was divinely guided, I feel. We were on a roll. We had finished 33 classes. We finished the 9 petals of this 18 petals that we are studying, the 16 petals that we are studying. We had finished 9. And then we had the break because of COVID. It hit all over the world, especially in Asian continents, more than any other place, Africa, Asia, India, Philippines, and so on. And so we felt very guided to do something about that. And so we started the Hanuman Yagna. And even as we started the Hanuman Yagna, even as we went into it, for many of you who followed us through the Hanuman Yagna, the divine hand of this Shakti principle that we are studying was there, because what I believe now in my heart, without a doubt, is that we were guided to first meditate, study the energy of Sita. Because what happens in this cosmic energy when we are studying, you and I know that this kind of satsang that we are doing is not simply an intellectual study. We are emotionally connected. We open our hearts, and this is not a program you watch on a television as such. You are, I mean, technically, yes, but in spirit, you and I feel that connection. We feel the heart's opening. We feel a deeper connection to the divine. And therefore, it is where we are actually invoking the cosmic principle. And so I believe in my heart, and I'm sure most of you would agree without a doubt, that she said, first meditate on my most benign, most beautiful, most soft, most gentle energy in the form of Sita. The name Sita itself is calm, cool, as opposed to Ram, which is Agni element. She is water, she's ice, she's snow, she's that cool. So it gave us a chance to drink in that energy of Sita. We saw in Hanuman how he approached Sita, how he got darshan of Sita, how did he communicate with her, and what was that? That Sundarakand, that chapter was so powerful that you and I can draw lessons from that for a very long time. Because what are we learning in the Sri Chakra? What are we trying to do in the Devi Khadgamala? Is the very same thing. We are trying to get a glimpse of this divine mother who is hidden in the Ashoka, sitting under the Ashoka tree, hidden among demonic forces. So deep inside, deep in the chitta of us, she is there, lying latent within. And like Hanuman, we have to go in search of her. We don't know how she looks. Hanuman didn't know how Sita looked. He had a description of her by Ram, and he had a couple of ornaments that he had given. And so that was all it was. And so with that, Hanuman took this leap of faith and goes, and we learned that. We had a chance to explore that. And so it was divinely guided. So even though we think sometimes that there is a break and things are not materializing the way you and I wanted, in retrospect and hindsight, like you say, when you look back, you see this divine hand saying, all right, pause here for a second, go and study this, then come back. Now, why do I draw this? Because this concept is actually live in our ancient Puranas as well. Allow me today to just touch upon this, because it is important as our path goes in this direction. In the Puranas, even with Shiva and Parvati, Shiva teaches Parvati. Then Parvati, apparently in the very first instance, she says she wants to learn Tantric Vidya. And Tantric Vidya is the Vidya of Sri Chakra, of mantras, of yantras. Yantra means... yantra typically means machine, but yantra means what you and I are seeing, this diagram, this drawing, a physical object. So Tantra consists of, Tantra is a ritual, lighting a lamp, offering a flower, all these are rituals. So these all form under Tantra and mantra. So mantra, yantra and Tantra. So Parvati wants to learn this Tantric Vidya from Shiva himself. He says, you need tremendous attention and focus to learn this. Don't think it's easy. She says, no, I want to learn, I want to learn, I want to learn. So he sits her down and starts teaching her. And the story goes that she feels, oh my God, this is going never ending, and her eyes, um, uh, she was drowsy, and so she kind of shut her eyes for just a second or so, and that was enough for Shiva. He says, you're not worthy of learning, so go down back into this earth, take another life, and come back. And in that life, learn what is one-pointed focus, one-pointed attention, because you're not having that right now to learn this. Go. And so the story says she took birth again, and this time she took birth as a fisherwoman. And as a fisherwoman, she learned how in order to catch a fish, you had to be completely one-pointed focus attention you need to catch a fish. So there is a story like that. And then again, Shiva comes and marries her, and she once again goes back to Shiva. And then there are many such things. She keeps getting banished. Get out of the class, go to your room, kind of thing. So she keeps coming back. Every time she has to learn a lesson, a whole lifetime is passed. And then she masters that lesson and goes back to Shiva. This is after all those years of intense tapas and attaining Shiva. That was the first step. And then again, it continues. So even the Purana, there is this story, there's this kind of linkage where when a time comes, the divine opens a door for your learning, better learning. And then you learn that and come back and continue where you are. And maybe something else might come up and the divine might open up. So this opening of Hanuman Yagna, of course, we did it under COVID and all of that. So there is always a logical reason for it. But under that, if you see the orchestration of this, that somehow we couldn't carry on with this. My conscience just wouldn't permit me to sit and talk about chakras and Shakti when hundreds and thousands of people were struggling. So I said, all right, let's bring everybody's faith back and give something to practice, because Hanuman is Vayu and breath. So I got guided there. And then I was thinking, how come that strong force pushed me from this into that? Now I begin to understand that this is not simply a coincidence. Nothing ever is. Sometimes you and I think we are the doers. Not sometimes, I think oftentimes, almost all the time, we think we are the doers, and we take credit, rarely take the blame, of course, but we do take the credit. But then more importantly, we have to realize that behind my will, if I've opened my heart to the divine to guide, then behind every will of mine, there is a divine will that operates. And so it was that we got this most beautiful opportunity to study the Sundarakand, and in that get darshan of Sita. Sita in all her glory, Sita sitting there under the Ashoka tree, which is what this Sri Chakra is, because we are going deeper and deeper into the Sri Chakra. So we once again come back. It seems like the time is right. And when we wanted to start it in 2 weeks, then I had a roof problem, I had a deck problem. Of course, the roof problem is still not fixed, but nevertheless, the point is, she waited. When the time is right, we fell in place, and then we started. I said, all right, let's get started. So we are doing this in all humility, knowing at every stage that it is only through grace that we are even able to come across these teachings, that we dare open them and begin to study. Even though the divine cosmic energy is full of love, in that love lies a lot of pruning. In that love lies a lot of discipline, only for your growth and my growth. And therefore, we needed that kind of understanding and cleansing of our mind, opening our hearts to the Sita energy, to understand the immense sadhana that Hanuman did, and to come back to Sri Chakra and saying, oh my, wow, this is the Devi that I am seeking, that I am calling out to. So let us begin this in all earnestness, of course, but in all humility. And bear with me if it sounds repetitive, but I will just quickly go through these 9 petals that we touched upon real quick, because you always can fall back to the previous class and review what we did. But there is something very important in the next ones that we are going to cover. So let's go to the slide and go to the first one. The first one talks of Kama Karshini. And we saw Kama Karshini's attraction of the mind. You can go to the next. There you go. So just allow, because Maya is operating the slide separately from me, so I might have to keep telling her what to do. Just a little rusty. We need to iron this part out a little bit, so bear with us. Anyway, so the first petal in this Avarna is, these are 16 petals, 16 phases of the mind, if you will, 16 aspects of our personality, right? All of these are energies, of course. We ourselves are an energy. The I in you is what? It's an energy, it's a thought. So that is there. So all of these are energies. Now it's important here and interesting here for those of you, some of you who perhaps didn't get a chance to review the previous class and you're coming back after a long time. Akarshini is attraction. Attraction is like, another way to describe this is, think of magnets. Magnets attract each other, correct? They also repel, that's a different thing. But when you think of magnets, you don't think of repelling magnets. You think of magnets attract. And they attract so fast that they stick to each other. Attraction is not gentle, where this magnet is simply around this. It sticks together, right? That's what you think of magnet. So that kind of attraction here, all of these energies is literally stuck to us. And therefore, we identify ourselves with these energies. These energies become part of us. They are all divine, but we have to understand the function of each of these energies, right? So we talked about the attraction of the mind. Kama means mind. Kama is desire, a place where desire is born. That is the mind. Without the mind, there is no desire, right? When you're fast asleep, there's no time to desire anything. You're fast asleep. The mind ceases to exist. So it is interesting to note here, note the number 1, because when we come to number 9, there is a connection. This 16 petals, let me put it out there right away before it slips my mind. There is a lot of body language in these 16 petals. Each one talks to the other opposite, right? We have to keep that in mind. It was a great revelation when I was studying this, so I'm going to share that with you. So this is Kama Karshini, we touched upon that. And then comes Buddhya Karshini. So let us go to the next 3, click 3 times, yeah, there you go. So this was Buddhi is attraction. I put the word intelligence because for those of you who know a little bit of Sanskrit, Buddhi equals intelligence, that's easy to understand. But Buddhi is more than intelligence, because today intelligence, when I say intelligence, you and I think of being intelligent in math and science and geometry and so on. This is intuition. Intelligence in this language, in the Upanishads, in Buddhi in us, the faculty is not simply the logical mind. That is part of the mind itself. Buddhi here is where you're able, the sixth sense that we call it, the gut feeling that we call it, intuition that we call. For creative energies, you need Buddhi. So this is Buddhi. We call that overall intelligence. So Buddhi is another evolved aspect of the mind itself. So there is Buddhi. That is number 2. You've got to keep that in mind, because we go to number 10. There will be a connection, right? Diagonally opposite to that. Then comes the Ahankara Karshini. Ahankara is the ego. The I in me, that is also stuck. Think of the Akarshini. Ego is part of me, so part of me I cannot separate myself from that ego, right? At this point, the ego will slowly evolve to becoming the ultimate I. It's the same I. The same I becomes the big I. You know, in a wonderful discourse, Baba said, the senses that are giving you experiences, that experience and the ananda means the joy that you get from the senses, is part of the Brahmananda. It's not separate. It's not a sin to say, to get joy from the senses and somehow get rid of that. You know, we talked about this earlier, but I just want to round up those thoughts so we make sure we are on the same page. So the senses, the joy that comes from the senses is part of the same Brahmananda. The Brahmananda is the infinite joy that comes, Satchit Ananda. That Ananda, that bliss, contains all of this. These are small little trailers of that big movie, if you will. So this ego, again, in that context, the ego, this I, the same part of the big I. It's not separate, right? So this I becomes the same ego, becomes the jiva, the same jiva, which you think of as soul, becomes the atma, and the same atma becomes a paramatma. It's the same I that begins. Keep revisiting the same I. This time is going to be different. A very good way to explain this is analogy. Perhaps I mentioned it earlier as well. Is if you ask a 2-year-old where does water come from, he's going to look at the tap in the sink and say, there, water comes from there, because he sees his mom opening the sink every time and closing the sink, and he goes to the bathroom to have showers. So for him, water comes from the tap. Now, when he's 5 years old and you ask him, where does water come from? He will shrug his shoulders, take your hand and go all the way to the water tank outside the building or on top of depending on where you are, which part of the world you are. He will point to the tank on top of the building, let's say, and say, water comes from there into our home. So he has now found that the tap is not outdated, but the source for that tap is something else. And then he grows a little bigger. Then he realizes, wait a minute, where does water come into the tank? Then he finds out it is the same water coming out of the tap, but then the source is not the little water tank on top of my building. It is the city water, or perhaps a reservoir, right? So he says that is where the water comes from. And then he realizes water, that also is not the ultimate source. Rain is the ultimate source, and so on. So what has changed here? It is, he's found that the source is different. That's the same thing here with attraction of the ego. Then we go to the next one. And the next one is Shabda Karshani, attraction of sound. Okay. So here, now we touched upon 5 aspects. 5 aspects of creation. We are going to touch upon 5 aspects of creation. Shabda, which is sound. From sound emanates everything. Sound is vibrations, frequencies. From that emanates everything. And we'll see there is a link between 5 and diagonally opposite what is going to come there. It is linked. This is the secret of Sri Chakra. You have to understand there's a body language, there's a link. Whether this link exists in others, we don't know. We'll explore and see. But here it is very evident, and I'll show you. So hold in mind what are these. Then we come to the next one. Shabda, Sparsha. Sparsha is touch. So from sound, we get to touch. Touch means air. So when air touches our skin, we feel. So skin, air, vayu, is connected to that. So these are called tanmatras. I talked about it in detail in the last 2 classes, so I won't go into detail again. Then we went into rupa karshini, the sense of sight. So this is form. You get to see form. Shabda, sparsha, rupa. Sound, sense, attraction of sound, attraction of touch, and attraction of the form. Attraction is, again, the word akarshana is holding us. That energy of Devi, one of the energies of her, it is part of us, right? The eyes can see forms and objects. The ability to see is that energy. Okay. And then comes Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa. Rasa is taste. Rasa is taste. Rasa is the ability to experience. What is taste? If I show you an apple and say, do you know what an apple is? Have you experienced? You will say, yes, I've eaten the apple. So one of the senses, perhaps the only sense that can actually give you an experience, quote unquote experience, is taste, because it goes in, right? Others you can only see, you can touch, but touching an apple doesn't give you a taste. You have to bite it and eat it. So the tongue and taste relates to experience. And so it's a very powerful energy that we need to understand. That is Rasa Karshani. And then last is Gandha Karshani. Gandha is smell. Smell is earth. So just like taste is water, smell is earth. So you had sound, which was ether, space around from which sound comes. So your ability to speak, ability to listen, all of that comes from sound. Then comes touch. Touch is vayu, the ability to breathe, the air in you. Movement. Movement is air, right? Air moves. So you're moving. So hands, sense of touch, all that is connected to air. Then comes Rupa. Rupa is light, fire, warmth. When there is light, my eyes can see, so my eyes are connected. The warmth of the feet is very important. Your feet should be warm in order to maintain your body warm. If your feet is cold, body cannot be warm. And therefore, fire and rests under our feet. That's why when you do exercise, the body warms up, correct? When you jump up and down, when you go for walking, body heats up because the warmth from the feet fills up. Look at how it seems very simple, but then there is a profound understanding of in the simplicity lies the profound of the profoundness of this understanding. So you have fire, that is also part of us. Rupa. Then you had rasa, taste. Taste is water. Water is connected to the sense, the sexual organ, which passes urine, seminal juices, and so on. That is connected. And the sense of taste, which is tongue. So these are senses that are connected to the sense of taste. Then smell. Smell is nose and the anus, because what passes out is fecal matter, which has a powerful quality of smell. So anything that is matter, matter alone has the quality of smell. Water does not have, air does not have, fire doesn't, intrinsically, they don't have it. It's a different matter, they are polluted and they smell, that's a different matter. But by themselves, fire has no smell, water has no smell, air has no smell, sound of course has no smell. Only matter has the quality of smell. That's why you have drug sniffing dogs, right? When they sniff something, they know that there's a powder actually existing. They're not sniffing whether a guy is a good guy or a bad guy. They don't know that. You cannot sniff that. You can sniff for objects, and therefore dogs are used for sniffing. So smell and matter is connected. So these are all powerful energies. They lie where? And they are in the Sri Chakra as well, but that akarshana is there within us. We can understand why it's called akarshana shakti. Akarshana is, it gravitates towards us. It's like magnets. That's the best analogy I can think of. Like magnet, it's stuck to us. And we don't have to get rid of it. We have to understand it, appreciate it, embrace it, and allow that Devi to say, okay, you have understood me. Now I allow you to progress. That is the beauty of the way we approach in Sri Chakra. Even in yoga, even in sadhana, that's why I say the word control is not the right word. Sense control we talk about. The word control has a different connotation in our day-to-day language, so we apply that in this term. It's indriya nigraha. Nigraha is graha. Nigraha is like holding the reins of the horses. You're not, by saying controlling the horses doesn't mean you're stopping them from moving. No, you are guiding them to more graceful movement. All the 5 horses that are yoked to the chariot, the 5 senses. And so you are guiding them where you want to go. The horses take you. Those horses represent the senses. Like you see in the Bhagavad Gita, the symbolism of Krishna being the charioteer. And he guides these horses to their destination. So we have to understand from that point of view that we have to navigate these energies, pray to them and say, please allow me to get darshan of your very source. And therefore we treat them with respect. We don't abuse them. When you and I are addicted to senses, then we abuse them. You can't say, okay, taste is, Devi is there in my taste, I can eat anything and everything. No, it doesn't work like that. Because then you are sticking more to your likes and not what you dislike. If we give you Karela, as they say in Hindi, or bitter gourd to eat, you're not going to say, oh, Devi is there in this too, please give me prasad, bitter gourd. No, we don't do that. Who cooks prasad as bitter gourd in your home? It's bitter, so you don't. You make sweets. Why? Because you and I like sweets. And that is not how we approach this. And so we have to say that every taste there is divinity, and therefore let me look at divinity in every taste. Bitter will still be bitter. Because you see divinity, bitter won't become sweet, but you accept bitter as it is. You accept sweet as it is. Accept people as they are, not expect for them to change according to you. That's what that unconditional love is. Unconditional love is there is no condition for this love. I will love you because you're my child. I love you because you have been good to me. I love you because you're my neighbor. I love you because you're my country. I love you because you're from my faith. Or all of that. They're all conditional love. So when we break through these, understand these senses in us and understand, then we will be able to get into that state of unconditional acceptance And then sense control, again, for the lack of any other word, I can use the word nigraha, if you allow me. The indriya nigraha, indriya means senses. So the nigraha begins automatically comes, because everything you treat as respect. If you get a food without salt one day, you would have accepted it as Devi anyway, so you wouldn't complain. That's the point. That's where we ought to be, right? Whether we are or not, it's different. That's what this is all about. So it teaches us to respect these energies, revere these energies, and go beyond them. All right. And then, so after all these, she introduces herself in the 9th petal as the chitta, chitta karshini. So this is where we had stopped last time. Chitta I explained last time, and that concept has not changed. It won't change in this lifetime, I guess, for me, because my experience and understanding is chitta is a basket. It is a substratum that holds all the other previous ones. It started, you see, the first one that we started was mind, and from mind became ahankara, buddhi, intelligence, and then came ahankara, and after that came all the 5 senses, correct? Shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. So all of them, where are they? Where do they exist? So there is, like we call the cloud, right? We call the data is in the cloud today. Data is in the cloud. Where is that cloud? A cloud is a real thing, but it is not real in the sense of, it's not a tangible thing where your data is sitting in the cloud. You can't go and feel it because it's a virtual space, correct? And so it's something like that. If I were to draw an analogy, but that cloud is real. All our data is stored in the cloud. All the banks and all the information is stored in the cloud. It's all secure. There's vaults in the cloud, and it's like almost it really exists. But where is that, right? And so chitta is like that. It's like a virtual cloud that contains all of this, all these, right from mind to intellect to manas, buddhi, ahankara, shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha. All these 8 petals are contained in the chitta. Chitta is that substratum. And that is what Patanjali talks about when he says chitta vritti nirodha. Why? That chitta, the purity of that chitta, is what Baba talks of as well. That purity of chitta is what, when we say purity, what does that mean? It means that all of these other petals that we saw, the mind, the intellect, the ahankara, and the 5 senses, they're constantly giving us information, right? Constant, right? You and I right now are receiving information, and that is forming its impression. And we constantly, when we repeat this, receiving, we contemplate on the information, we allow it to go in, then where does it settle? It settles in the chitta. It forms an impression in the chitta. So there are good impressions, bad impressions, all kinds of impressions. Every single experience, if you will, that you and I have had in our lives, leave their impression. Some don't leave any impressions because they have a very tiny experience. Like you and I are walking in the street, millions of people are passing by. Those kind of things don't necessarily form an impression in the chitta. But when you turn to look at someone and say, oh, I've seen that person before. Oh my God, who's that person? And then you put your attention there, and then you allow thoughts and emotions and all to flow in that direction, whether you like him or whether you like her or not like her and all of that stuff. It could be a restaurant that you spotted, a person that you spotted, anything. When we put that attention there, then we are opening door for that energy to come in, and that becomes an impression in the chitta. And then we reiterate that experience through memory and all of that. So it forms an experience in the chitta. The impression in the chitta. Think of a dent in your car, right? Hopefully you don't have, but my car, one of them is 15 years, the other one is 8-year-old car. So they have some dents. Now, I don't know when this dent happened now. The actual experience is gone. And I can't even remember. But I look at the car, the dent is not gone because I've forgotten the experience. The dent is still there. That dent is the chitta's impression. Like it's like that. So the impression will be there. And that will determine our next birth. When we come back again, those impressions are going to create a new Sundar, if you will. That time it won't be Sundar, it could be anything. because based on the impressions created, the orchestration of this divine energy will be what is it that this soul has to learn. And therefore, whatever he has to learn, or she has to learn, or it has to learn, depending on what I will be, it'll come. I will take that birth. So chitta helps in forming birth after birth after birth. So in yoga, what they say is chitta vritti nirodha. These vrittis that form these dents stop, cease. They cease to form dents on the chitta. They can come and go, but they will not form dents. It will not, you learn to become an observer, you learn to become a witness, you don't attach yourself. And so they come and go, and the chitta becomes free. So that is where we are going to be at some point. But right now we have to understand chitta karshini, this chitta that is there, that is holding all our past and present information, which is available to you and me through deep meditation. We can go deep inside and begin to cleanse this. But anyway, this chitta karshini, this is also a divine energy of Devi. She provides this. She's all of this, right? That's the beauty of understanding. So at the end of the study, you and I should say everything is divine. Everything is that Devi energy. But we will still treat snake as a snake. We will still treat an elephant as an elephant, a lion as a lion, a flower as a flower, and a thorn as a thorn. We cannot change the nature of that simply because we see God in everything. That doesn't change. Because somebody asked me, so if I see God in everybody, can I hug a snake? You can't, of course, you can't do that. There is an interesting, humorous anecdote for this. There was once a guru who taught his disciple and said, everything is God. Learn to see God in everything, and there'll be no harm to you. And so he took his guru's words literally, and he looked around and he said, everything has to be God, everything is God, everything is God. And he started walking down the street, looking at everywhere and thinking, yes, all of this is God. I am part of that too. So far, so good, right? And then in front of him, there was this elephant, and the Mahut was sitting on the elephant, and the elephant seemed to be out of control. And that elephant was running straight towards this boy. And the Mahut was shouting and saying, get out of the way, get out of the way. And this boy said, no, my guru said, everything is God, so this elephant is God. How can any harm come to me? And this boy walks. The elephant, of course, picks him and throws him, flings him out. What was that? Flings, okay, thanks. Flings him out and carries on. This boy is bruised and hurt, more inside than outside. So he goes to his guru and says, you told me to see God everywhere, but this elephant just flung me. I mean, what's the point? And the guru smiled. He said, tell me in detail. And the boy explained in detail. He said, the Mahut was telling me, get out of the way. But I said, no, this is God. How can it harm me? And the guru said, you forgot to see God in the Mahut, who's sitting on top of the elephant, who's telling you to go away. That was also God. Why didn't you listen to that God? And then this boy realizes that even though divinity is spread in everything, even though I accept divinity, a thorn will still be a thorn, a knife will still be a knife. You will still get a shock if you stick your head into the socket. I'm sorry, in your fingers into the socket. You will still get a shock. And so all of that will prevail. But there will not be a judgment from my side, because I'll say, okay, this is the nature. It is the nature of a scorpion to sting. It is not bad. So if a scorpion doesn't become bad, the nature of a scorpion is to sting. Another beautiful story here of Sant Eknath, who goes to bathe in the river. He and his disciple go. They bathe in the river. A scorpion stings the saint. He picks the scorpion and he screams in pain because it has stung him, but then he picks it up and places it on the rock next. And then again continues his bathing in the river. And again the scorpion falls into the water, swims up to him and stings him. Again he screams in pain. Again he lifts it up and puts it on the rock. And again he goes. And his disciple says, why didn't you kill that scorpion? He's stinging you. It's painful. And then the saint tells him, the scorpion's nature is to sting. My nature is to love and forgive. I cannot change my nature and become like a scorpion. nor can I expect the scorpion to become like me. Let him do his nature. I will do mine. There is a powerful lesson in this, a lesson that teaches us to live in harmony, in acceptance, not expecting you to do like me and I to do like you, because we all are so unique. Anyways, food for thought. So this is how beautiful chitta is. When we become clear and clean on all these kind of thinking processes, then the chitta becomes clean and pure. And just like all the senses, this chitta, she will open doors for further entrance into the Sri Chakra. We have just barely begun this journey. There's only the second Avarna, the second wall, if you will, right? Now, so this is 9. Let's touch the next one. The next one is 10, which is diagonally opposite to 2. So now I want you to understand that 9 was opposite to 1, manas and chitta. So that kind of completed one circle literally. Now what is this? This is dhairya karshini. Dhairya karshini. Dhairya karshini means courage. Now suddenly after all of this, when you read dhairya, you wonder, wait, suddenly what happened to, where is this quality dhairya coming? That is a direct product, result of understanding buddhi, which is number 2, diagonally opposite. If you remember, the first one was manas and the second was buddhi. So diagonally opposite, buddhi. When the buddhi is clean, intuition and intelligence is clean, there is no room for fear at all. So the other side is courage comes in, and that courage is again a blessing of the divine. We have to understand these energies now in pairs. And that's the beauty of these 16 petals. The beauty of these 16 petals is we understand them in pairs. Buddhi, dhi, it ends in dhi, and this is dhairya, dha comes here. So even in words, there is a link between the two. The meaning is a link between the two. Hanuman was an embodiment of both these. He was highly intelligent. We saw that, right? Mati, we talked about Mati, the kind of Mati that he had. So that is Hanuman. And when he had the Mati, or that intelligence, divine intelligence, there was no fear. And therefore he is also dhairya. Right? He is also an embodiment of courage. So that is what it is. So there is a link between buddhya karshini and dhairya karshini. So eventually when we learn to place these petals or place kumkum on all these petals as we do the puja, each of these places we have to remember, oh, there was a link between these two. That's why it will take time to study. Don't be in a rush. People have asked me, how can we do puja? Can you tell us the steps? Do you have a PDF? Can you share us? All of that is much, much later. First, understand these concepts. Then take time to memorize which petal, which energy stays where. Just take it as a study, literally memorize it. Then when you sit and when you start meditating on these energies, whether you place a flower or whether you simply touch those places, it doesn't matter, because now you're actually invoking that energy. And when you touch that with the mantra and that you chant, then what happens is that energy gets blessed in us. So buddhi and dhairya. Dhairya we know is courage. Courage can only come when there is buddhi, intelligence. When there is intelligence and intuition, a deeper understanding, then there is no place for fear at all. That is why Gayatri is dhiyo yona prachodayad. Completely no room for fear. Right? All right. So this is Dhairya Karshini. Let's go to the next one. And we'll stop with this today. Smritya Karshini. Smritya Karshini. Memory. Memory. Smriti is memory. Smriti is memory, and that's diagonally opposite to ahankara, which was down there. So you had manas, buddhi, ahankara. Ahankara and smriti. How are they two related again? Ahankara is I. How is I related to the memory? It is because you and I have forgotten who I really am. That memory we have to awaken. It is like that child who thought the water was coming from the tap, later on found out, hey, wait, what? The tap is not the one who gives the water. It seems to give water, but the real source is not the tap. It is the sky. That is it. So the real I is stored in the memory. Ahankara Karshini, Smritya Karshini. Diagonally opposite. That is why these Sri Chakras and yantras, you have to study the body language as well. Not simply take the meaning and go to dictionary and say, okay, this. We can't go in that direction. We could, I'm sorry to say we can't do this or that. We can, of course. But then it makes sense when you suddenly begin digging into, then why was it given in a diagram? Why couldn't they could have just listed it in a linear fashion, right? The importance of diagrams. Let's try and understand this and take this as we go into the study. Like I said, it may not apply everywhere, but let's see how that happens. Right now, it seems to be applying beautifully. Ahankara and memory are connected because in my memory, the real Ahankara is there. The real ego. What is the ego? The big ego. Whose ego? His ego. The Shivoham. When Shiva in me says, I am, when the sun rises and this little candle loses its meaning, the light is the same, but the light now no longer comes from the candle. It comes from the sun himself. That memory is there. And so when we invoke that memory, as Devi, say, awaken within me, remind me who I am. Remind me, my Lord, remind me, my Lord, remind me who I am. That's a beautiful song, right? For those of you who sing Baba's bhajans, you know that. It's a beautiful composition made by a dear, dear devotee, a young Srinivasan at that point, many, many years ago now, I guess. He lives in LA. He composed this beautiful bhajan. Remind me, my Lord. That is what it is, the attraction. So she resides as memory. So she's not only giving you ego, but she's also residing as memory that will help you understand the real ego. So that's the link here, right? That's the link here. Okay. And we will, okay, just one more. Let's take this. Then comes Nama Kashni. Let's stop with this. Nama. So Nama means what? Name. Name is what? Sound. Name is also simply a sound, right? Sundar. Sundar is sound. That sound has meaning, it comes later, but Sundar is a sound. Nama, sound. Where does sound exist? In space, Shabdha. So diagonally opposite is what? Shabdha Karshini. Shabdha. What is the sound that I need to understand, to that energy of sound to reveal the secret is a nama, is the name. Name is the energy that will reveal to me the secrets of the inner space. That is why japa, mantra chanting has a rule, has a place, has in that context, they are very, very powerful. Because when I constantly create the name, the space within me, the sabja karshini, she says, okay, I'm happy. And she opens our mind to deeper understanding, opens the inner space. And when the inner space opens, the heart opens. Then we are able to take in all. Then we'll realize, wait a minute, I have abundance of everything. It is because of that lack of space, we feel constricted. And because of that constricted in my thinking, I see constriction, I see lack everywhere. All that can go with name. The question is what name? And therefore, Nama Smarana, chanting the divine names. And that's why in the last class I explained about Sanskrit and the importance of communication as a means. So here she's telling us, I am Shabdha Karshini. I am the one who gives you that sound. But I will tell you also which is the sound that can help you understand. So attraction of it. Nama Karshini, diagonally opposite. So let us continue this beautiful journey in the next class. We do this every Mondays and Wednesdays. So we will do that. We will end this satsang as always with a divine bhajan. Maya and I were blessed to receive this bhajan. And for those of you who may not have seen a short blog that I did a couple of days ago, this was a bhajan that just came to us just 2 or 3 days ago. It just came. I was stuck with one line. And then out of the blue, Maya did her own homework. And then she came out with some words. She said, hey, do you think this will fit in this kind of, this is how I see Devi. And I was very surprised. And then it all kind of fell in place beautifully. So it is with that humility, I wish to offer that bhajan to you all and to this divine Devi, the Shakti that exists in all of us. May she guide us. May she open our hearts to a greater understanding, to the revelation of who she really is. And let us bask in that joy. And just being in that presence is, I feel, the goal of life. So let us offer this bhajan and bring the satsang to a close. Again, thank you all for joining.
Om Shri Matre Namaha. 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 Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Katyayani Shivani Sanatani. Katyayani Shivani Sanatani. Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Om Shri Matre Namaha. 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 Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Katyayani Shivani Sanatani. Ambe Bhavani Jagadambe Mata. Bhakta Samrakshini Bhuvaneshwari. Bhakta Samrakshini Bhuvaneshwari. Divya Dayamayi Durgeshwari. Divya Dayamayi Durgeshwari. मङ्गलकारिणि महेश्वरी मङ्गलकारिणि महेश्वरी कैवल्यदायिनि कालेश्वरी कैवल्यदायिनि कालेश्वरी श्री चक्रवासिनि माता हृदय निवासिनि माता कात्यायनी शिवानी सनातनी कात्यायनी शिवानी सनातनी अम्बे भवानी जगदम्बे माता अम्बे भवानी जगदम्बे माता ॐ श्री मात्रे नमः 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 समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु May all the beings in all the worlds be happy. जय बोलो पवन सुत हनुमान की जय सियावर रामचंद्र की जय सतगुरु साईनाथ महाराज की जय नमः पार्वती पतये हर हर महादेव। ओम शांति शांति शांति।